Wow, but we are here. Link to the Past Randomizer main tournament semifinals. I can't believe we are down to the final four. We started with 318 entrants into qualifiers, getting the top 128 down to groups for 64, onto brackets, and we are down to what we have here today. Game one between ObscureLifeForm and Andy. Two people, absolutely no strangers to this exact spot. ObscureLifeForm, this is actually his back-to-back second consecutive time being here in the semifinals. Certainly looking forward to hopefully taking a win over Andy in this series. Andy, of course, this is his third time here, and coincidentally, the last 2 times he was here, he also happened to win the whole thing. So I think he's looking for a hat trick of some sort. This series should be pretty dang amazing to watch. I am Claire Mouse. On track today, we have one of the most experienced and best trackers, Sammy, and of course, on commentary, Ari. Just this year, what is it? Ladder Open Plus Invitational winner, Quick Cross winner, Mystery PogChamp winner, NMG World Record holder. The list goes on. Hello, Ari. How are you doing?
Hey, it's going pretty well. Seems like we're getting good started. Oh, early glove already.
Oh, jeez. All right, yeah.
Let's get right into the mix of things, I guess.
Yeah, that's right. So quite the, of course, this is, being main tournament, component match, a variety tournament, 1 to 5 modes. Happened to draw in this case, inverted key Sandy, already marked, of course, on our layout by Sammy. And of course, with inverted key sanity, we also have a starting flute. Already some pretty access, but of course, this seems to be a pretty traditional opening. Checking out the Meyer area with that flute and early access, and opening up 2 items.
Yeah, this has definitely been the standard opening. Just getting some quick information about Meyer. Like, this is a pretty isolated check that you don't really need anything for. So it's just really nice to get it out of the way. Maybe get some bombs, get some rupees for the Village of Outcast area. And then kind of see from there on out. The early flute in inverted keys helps so much with just early routing, making sure you don't really get stuck in a situation where you have to cross the entire world to try and fight bombs. You can always quickly go back and forth. And yeah, from the first sphere, we kind of get a general idea of where the rest of the seed will go.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, right, the early flute, flute has been argued that it may not necessarily be as useful in inverted C just because you only kind of get used to use it in the dark world. But I mean, as you mentioned though, especially for early on, we don't have to walk all the way from Dark Sanctuary in order to go to Skull Woods and try and farm a couple things. We got a flute to basically flute over to Dark Spot, beginning of Thieves Town. We go to the Maya area. Yeah, so early resources are certainly going to be just a little bit easier in order to try and pick up.
Yeah, and we're already seeing some early divergence. Andy decided not to go into the front for a feast. I noticed he did the same thing against me in our inverted keys race. He kind of leaves it for a little bit later, maybe once he has some more resources. So yeah, he's gonna grab the key in the back of Skullwoods. Obscure front for a feast, not really giving anything, but it's an easy death warp out, and he'll probably be following suit. With the early glove that we found, an interesting thing you can do is actually start in Dark Sank, and when you have the 1 screen west with the arrow made out of rocks, there are a lot of 50-50 bombs under those, so those are a good way to find bombs, aside from the usual spot that people use, which is in the back of Skullwoods.
Yeah. I mean, and speaking of the art, so Andy at least got some bombs here in the Vanilla Vicky chest, kind of fighting his way over across the Gyptos in order to get them. But yeah, you're talking about early resources. We're kind of low on, like, anything right now. We got a couple of arrows to our name, a couple of rupees to our name, but, Obscure, knowing this, oh man, look at that luck. With the fish luck, we got, 2 50-50 bombs getting it.
Yeah, sometimes you just hit the 25%. Andy is doing the bombs in Skullwoods, so I guess both runners will be okay. I didn't know about the complete bottom left push in near Bomb of Hut. That's amazing.
Yeah. Yes, these guys seem to have played inverted once or twice in this case. Certainly getting this far into the tournament means that they've probably got quite a handful of inverted key sanity at least under their belts.
And he's stuck there, nothing you can do.
Yeah,
okay.
Oh man.
At least Obscure got the cave open, so he doesn't need to waste another bomb. But yeah, a couple of risky inverted deaths, it's gonna happen. Inverted's pretty rough early on, just enemies do so much damage.
Oh yeah. I mean, this is beginning of Dark World, right? Dark World does not care what kind of health or equipment you have. And pretty much every enemy does like 2 hearts of damage from the get-go. Obscure safely making it into Hypecave this time around. Got dueling map pickups. Nice pickup of Skullwoods map inside Skullwoods, not quite the map chest. But we did find out today that Skullwoods is a crystal. Obscure actually, you're never gonna complain about early money in this case for something like this.
Yeah, money can be a huge hassle to get by, especially if early pod keys start happening or something. You really want some, like 110 rupees to actually get into pod.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I mean, especially pod isn't usually too much of a worry, right? Entry to pod just because for a non-inverted KC, just because you have all of Light World, right? You've got lots of opportunities to try and farm up money. For inverted keys or any type of inverted seed, you could basically be forced into pod very early, and so early money that you don't have to necessarily worry about is going to be good.
Yeah. So we're kind of running out of the really Sphere 1 checks. We still have Digging Game, and then I think we're starting to get into the more uncomfortable checks, being like Old Man, East Dark Death Mountain, maybe the first chest of Agate Tower, and those are a little bit more time consuming, especially if you don't have a good way to get through the Dark Cave, or if you have a good way to get past the Lionels. So I think we're just kind of hoping for a sword. With the glove, Catfish is open, Pyramid's still there. So there's a couple of like isolated checks. Yeah, and then inverted with Flute, at least Catfish isn't as bad as it would usually be, like fluting to 2 and then just going a little bit further. It's not too bad compared to having to go all the way via Pyramid or North Dark World.
Yeah, so actually, kind of as a consequence, like, does that mean Pyramid is actually now considered somewhat more out of the way, just because you don't really have that convenient of a spot to flute to? I guess other than like your house, or like otherwise like the bomb shop.
Yeah, it's very easy to kind of isolate those kinds of checks because you always think, oh, I can delay it a little bit. I'll just do it after this, and then suddenly it's your last location, just because you keep putting it off because it's so easy.
Yeah, Sounds like Ice Rock Cave all over again in the Light World, basically, for Pyramid.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, of course, the good news, starting in Inverted, is that without a mirror right now, death warping on such low health is very easy.
Yeah, and that's something that we'll probably be seeing a little bit early on. It kind of depends on how many dungeons we're forced to go into before we get our light bolt access proper. We're only one item away. We can get either Mids or the hammer, and then the entire world is our oyster. But
yeah,
so
that's true.
So far, we haven't really gotten too much that is really pointing us somewhere. And that's kind of showing that both Andy and Obscure are kind of tracing each other's steps, just kind of doing what the other one has already done.
Yeah, and it certainly makes, it's very reasonable, I think, for them to try and at least get, to the locations that don't require too much, like, access, right, inside the dungeon, right? Skullwoods, Thieves Town, Overworld, right? These are basically those locations that you can just kind of step in. You don't really need anything extra, right? And probably in this case, saving like locations like Pod, for example, where you might need like a bit more access, even like a small key or two, maybe a bow, to see if you can basically get something out of there. Of course, we do have one chest that is in Logic and available for us in Pod, but it's kind of like, even with the flute, it's still a bit of a longer trek, right? So you kind of want to maybe try and, hedge and maybe try and get, an additional something else to kind of make your trip worthwhile.
Yeah, even one small key early on might be enough to already give you a couple of items and a little bit more of an incentive to go there. But usually you really want to, just so you can include the back in it. Even if it means that the back is not exactly in Logic yet. It's just... It just helps you with the sheer volume of items that you get.
Oh yeah. And of course, right. I mean, Logic, of course, both runners are very, very capable of keeping track of all of these things, but, it certainly does not help or hurt. In this case, you can just try and, be a little bit more efficient, maybe get a bit more value for every single trip that you make. And especially, playing against Andy or playing against Obscure, these are really, people that you cannot really afford to give up that much time against.
Definitely. Yeah, especially Andy, who is just a beast when it comes to execution. It's really it's really hard to gain time over him. And yeah, I think most people would consider Andy to have like the sheer execution lead over Obscure here, but Obscure just has a really good feeling when it comes to routing and when to cut corners or not, and that's probably something that you will see over the course of the series that he will have to do when it comes to racing against Andy. So far this tournament, I think Andy has been pretty conservative with his routing, and he's been pretty thorough. So we'll see if he keeps that up and just is kind of banking on his execution so far. But you never know. He's so flexible, and he's very versatile when it comes to playing different modes and all that.
Oh yeah. I mean, actually for both Obscure and Andy, right? You pretty much name a mode, like they've played it like through and through, and it's actually, and for what it's worth, right? The fact that kind of right now neither runner really has a real weapon of sorts. I mean, they got a couple bombs to their name, but it's actually, I think, pretty cool in this case. Kind of see in this case both of them be a bit more creative when it comes to, in this case, clearing out rooms without a trusty fighter sword. Or especially in that we have 2 medallions to our names, and it's basically pretty cool for them to be able to see what can I do with only a couple bombs. How do I kind of like try and maneuver some of the enemy RNG versus just spamming like a medallion to try and kill the room.
Yeah. Yes, just a fighter sword would definitely alleviate a lot of the issues that both runners have at the moment.
Yeah, not of course to bring up any bad memories for Andy. I think once he gets to the light world, if he ever decides to do South Shore, I think he would really, really appreciate a sword going over there.
Yeah. I mean, we're already at 6 hearts. That's more than he had during that one race. So.
That's true.
I think he would really enjoy having like 2 extra right now, just to make sure that he's not gonna get O-code by a Lionel.
Yeah, that's also true. Yeah, Lionels certainly don't stop for you whatsoever. I mean, they can kind of stop for you if you have boots and like tempered sword, but anything under that, Lionel's just gonna basically charge it right straight at you.
Yeah, so we're probably gonna see Andy pick up a few boosters here, just trying to get a heart. And there we go.
Yeah, it looks like the Obscure actually ended up doing a very quick light world map check for us, Sammy, already marking the Desert Palace today is actually going to be a pendant. What a surprise, of course. We do have the big key to desert, so, well, guess we're gonna have to see what happens. Andy, oh my gosh, Andy. This is Ice Rock Cave Dark World all over again, but he safely makes it through. So very, very nicely done in order to be able to claim what's in Super Bunny Cave here.
That's the classic inverted experience. That's what we are all traumatized by at this rate.
Yeah. All right.
Let's see what the hard work pays off.
All right, 20 rupees, full magic. Oh, and the mints! All right, that was a very worthwhile trek over to Super Bunny Cave. We now have official Light World access via 1/4.
Right. In the meantime, Obscure is gonna do a quick catfish check in between. Might flute over and do Pyramid as well, but we'll see. At this rate, though, Andy's just going to go into Paradox Cave, get those 7 items, and then we'll see from there what his next choices are going to be.
Yeah, he is a little bit lower on health, so the Dead Rocks do 1 heart of damage. He doesn't actually have that many bombs. He does have enough money, so he might actually decide to stop by like the shop here in order to maybe try and get more bombs, or maybe he's going to basically chance it and then see what ends up happening with Mini Mold Arms.
Yeah, he might decide to forego Floating Island and just save and quit out of Paradox. That's not super unreasonable if you're expecting to get like a Mirror or a Hammer or Samaria or something, just to be able to get into Turtle Rock later as well. That cost so small is pretty fortunate. That helps a lot.
I was gonna say, it's actually very interesting that we actually found it in Logic. And it looks like actually Andy, with only 2 bombs now, he is going to opt to, in this case, buy a couple. And a very lesser seen purchase of a heart. He is going to be certainly very concerned about his overall health here.
The heart's pretty important.
Oh, yeah.
It's really hard to kill those mini Moldoms without taking a hit.
Yeah, I mean, right, and again, like this is going to be where Andy and Obscure, for that matter, is going to be showing some creativity, right? Bombs, even Mini Moldorm Cave in the Light World, right? Try to kill them with bombs isn't that easy, but oh my gosh, dude, beyond the mirror, we have a sword! Holy cow! Andy is got quite a nice early game advantage here, finding all these really nice goodies in Paradox Cave.
Alright, yeah, those 2 items are going to help him a lot. Obscure won't be too far behind. And we can probably expect Andy to to include Catfish and Pyramid into his route at some point as well. It might be a little bit more efficient with the mirror, but it's not as if this like 2-minute lead is going to stay that way.
Yeah, for sure. Alright, Andy, much more comfortable in this case. Checking out Floating Island, of course, this being Light World, there's an auto bridge there. We can't end up getting there through the Dark World, so it's just automatically going to be available for us, but of course not going to be interested because it's only a hard piece. With that mirror, though, we're potentially beginning the first of what could be many inverted mountain climbs in this case, basically doing some backdoor stuff into Mimic Cave, back at Turtle Rock, doing Laser Bridge first, getting a big heated pod. That's actually pretty interesting. Can't actually get there yet. Oh man, and the Kena Samari, I guess we're just gonna keep going into Turtle Rock.
Yeah, at this rate, I think he might as well. It's probably pretty reasonable to even go all the way to the front, maybe, like the compass chest. After behind Chomps. But we'll have to see.
Yeah, I guess, thank goodness actually for finding the Cane of Samurai. I mean, of course, it gives us access here, but, before the Cane, we didn't have anything else other than bombs, basically, to use, and, I guess we have a sword, but it's just like, there are things that you would really like to be able to have more hit switches, from afar, in this case, other than bombs.
Yeah, bombs are pretty valuable resource. Obscure has a couple. He probably doesn't need to buy any bombs. He'll be fine. And especially once he finds the sword and mirror, he'll be more than excited to just probably follow Andy's suit here. Yeah, I'll be curious to see. Oh! What is Andy doing here?
Yeah, talking about basically using also medallions, to his advantage, right? Bombos is very nice to be able to kill all the Pokies. What he has right now with Fighter Sword and Samaria, it's something that you really don't want to deal with.
Is this just for in case he does?
Yeah,
okay, I guess so.
Yeah, maybe he wants to. I mean, he does have the mirror, so maybe this is basically either some sort of like a safety portal, or whatever he wants to do, he can finish and then just mirror right back, and then he just gets to continue on his route.
Yeah, it could also be just to maybe save Scummy Key at some point, but that's in inverted keys. That seems a bit.
I guess
too
it doesn't.
Much,
Yeah, I don't. It certainly doesn't happen too often, certainly. But I've got, again, that full magic bar that we picked up in Super Bunny Cave is certainly really helping out Andy. I mean, he's doing a really good job here, basically using his medallions, because, again, Fighter Sword, Samaria, Bombs, I mean, these are not things you want to take on Pokies with, especially with only 4 hearts. You get hit by 1 ricochet, you're going to start your trek over.
Yeah, so in that sense, like, taking the safety exit in this case, yeah, definitely makes sense. Especially if you have the upcoming Chomps as well, there's still plenty of Turtle Rock left here.
Alright, yeah, Obscure picking up his mirror and Fighter Sword. As you mentioned earlier, right, just basically it looks like he's going to just kind of slightly follow in Andy's footsteps. Probably going to go and pick up his Big Heated Pod, pick up his Cane of Samari, and then also follow along suit to explore more of Turtle Rock.
Yeah, these are pretty lengthy checks. Oh, Castle Tower.
Castle Tower, interesting. All right, well, man, and I think you've been, been pretty predictive here of Andy's actions. Basically taking, his path from the back of Turtle Rock all the way to the front.
Yeah, like I was saying, Andy has been pretty far over the course of the tournament so far. These are pretty costly checks, though. Like, it's quite a few minutes to go all the way through to the front of Turtle Rock, and you are still leaving behind like the 2 fire rod lock chests, the big chest. So we'll probably have to come back at some point. So it wouldn't be too bad to even wait until you need to come back anyway at some point with some more keys or some more items to also combine it with Hera, for example. But yeah, I mean.
Yeah. This is also kind of interesting. All right, so Andy ended up opening up or getting out of the front of the rock. We do have information that it is Bombos, so at least, if he wants to go to the fire rod lock side, it's not going to be too big of a trek, right? We don't have Bombos. Andy's used it multiple times at this point, and so if he at least wants to do that, he doesn't have to go for basically all the way from the back, which is really good news.
Yeah, Andy realizing that he should have done this last race as well for an easy sword. Going to go to Agina and Checkerboard Cave early.
Alright, well, at least we have learned our lesson. We do see a compass here in Checkerboard Cave, so definitely, this is not MC Boss Shuffle. The compass is really just there to kind of help us count items along the way in the dungeon. So Andy, he's very confident in his own tracking abilities. Probably ends up not needing a compass in this case.
Sometimes you do want to pad your collection rate, but it's not always necessary.
Yeah. Alright, looks like though Agina and Checkerboard Cave today not quite giving the value that was there in the last race for Andy. No second sword, of course. But at least, especially on this health, and the fact that we do have a mirror, I don't think that he would necessarily turn down any extra health at this point.
No, for sure. Especially once you need to stop death warping.
Yeah, exactly.
Any extra health is definitely... Even if it's not going to be necessary, just the safety it provides and the amount of comfort just makes you play better in general.
Mm-hmm.
So ObscureLifeForm is going through Rock, like in the opposite way after getting all the stuff from Laser Bridge. Just checked the ruler switch key chest, I think, and then went all the way to the front. Grabbing extra heart just for safety. It's not going to do much against chomps, but... should still be fine, yes. Very nice.
Yeah, that's right. He's gonna pick up his batch of small keys. Yeah, Castle Tower 1, and it looks like he just wants the full magic, gotcha. Meanwhile, though, Andy has already made his way over to the dam, and basically picked up both items, just a heart container, but I mean, nothing notable for progression. He is here in South Shore with his trusty fighter sword and shield. Certainly going to be lots of mental comfort here when he's going to basically clear out the rest of his area. I will say though, like, Myth's light world access in Inverted with the starting flute is actually surprisingly good, right? Just because we actually do get a lot of access because we can actually, lift up Myth's rocks. For example, like my area into desert, right, was actually something that was very convenient. We can actually get into like Ice Palace or something like that, right? Or at least like the light world version.
Yeah, in Inverted, Myths is surprisingly more flexible, or as flexible as it would be with Glove and Hammer. Whereas in normal modes, you're only used to being able to enter the dark world from Kakariko. Here you can actually go from Mire to Desert, or from Ice Palace to the water, or to the ferry.
Yeah, right. And of course, Yeah, I was gonna say though, like, so while Myths are actually great, the only thing they technically do lock, or they hard lock, is actually King's Tomb. You can't really get there from like the light world to the dark world, just because, well, it's Myths locked to the light world. So for what it's worth, like Myths actually can be quite a bit of a luxury item. You may not always see Myths in Inverted Seeds, so the fact that they do have it actually is quite convenient in terms of routing.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, you saw that Andy made some good use of that as well, going to the desert area, from there on out going to Mini Modern Cave, and then making his way up north to the Bomb Vendor, where he found out that Pod and Ice were the Pyramid Fairy Crystals for today. And then doing the entirety of Escape, probably, with that Harrow Castle small key.
Yeah, right. The fact that it actually did show up early, along with the the lamp that we found, very early on. Certainly, I very much understand why maybe Hyrule Castle looks a bit suspicious, right? The fact that we do have so much access already puts into logic. Certainly, there could be something very useful here.
Yeah, definitely. It's actually a pretty hard track to get to quickly in Inverted, so just going there early, it's very nice, especially if you do have a small key already, just so you can exit from the back. And from the back, you can basically ride your way over from the North Light World through Lost Woods to Kakariko. So in a way, it's a very nice package deal.
Yeah, so speaking of items that, we would like to see, Paradox Cave certainly gave us a good amount. We got the mirror, we got a fighter sword, those were some really exciting items. How about some boots, Ari?
Yeah, they could be anywhere.
Oh, that was so, man. Freedom is not necessarily all that it is, cracked up to be. Sometimes, I would like to know precisely in this case where the boots are. Obscure actually giving us a little bit more thorough, being kind of finishing up what he has on the mountain. Do you remember that Castle Tower small key we got in Turtle Rock? So we do have in this case 2 more checks available.
I think in about like 6-7 minutes, we'll actually find out whether or not we need the second one as well. And then we'll see. Look, there's a second sword. Was there?
Yeah, all right. Yeah, that's certainly quite nice. We do of course need 2 swords to beat the seed. Early swords are always welcome because any type of sword upgrade, fighters, no sword to fighter sword to master sword, going to be quite the offensive boost.
Yeah, definitely. I think any upgrade up to tempered sword is very welcomed. Gold sword, like neither of these runners are going to need, but it's some nice decadence at times. Yeah.
Oh
big
yeah.
Of course.
So yeah, not quite the thick key that we want, but of course it is technically in logic. So Andy's gonna finish up. Looks like as you mentioned, doing Dark Cross, of course, with the lamp. They're probably gonna do walk out of the back of the skate, maybe.
Yeah, that's what I would expect. And that's a very nice hammer.
Yeah, of course, Obscure giving us some more, as you mentioned earlier, right, Ari? Once we get to Light World, the world is our oyster. We have so much direction as to, and choice as to where we want to go. Obscure looks like Obscure going to choose an early Kakariko, and of course, very much rewarded with our hammer. So we do have, in this case, the rest of our Light World access.
Yeah. At least Andy isn't doing anything that could have been sped up with the hammer, so I don't think he's going to feel too bad if it's really just the hammer that is that he's kind of left behind in Kakariko so far. If the boots are there as well, I suppose he'll be less than pleased.
Yeah. But I mean, Kakariko is definitely, Kakariko is not going to be a place that he's going to avoid, anytime soon. Just because, especially if he walks out of the back of the skate, he's going to basically be right there. He's going to just come to into the village.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, we did also see another key to pod on Obscure's side. Yes, I did hear that as well. We did find a book on Andy's side in the back of the skate. Now, of course, we did see that Desert is a pendant. Maybe we don't need it. If Desert were a crystal, that book would have been hard required. But right now, I guess that book is TBD, of whether or not it'll be useful.
Yeah, we're actually very close to having full information as well. Like, once we talk to Hansfala for the green pendant, then we actually know everything. Yeah, I don't know. It's just Kitani, so it's really hard to say whether or not it's saying something. But we already have big keys to 2 of the pendant dungeons. We have a lot of big keys already. Just to be clear. Item-wise, we're still kind of lagging behind. It's certainly a very key-heavy seed so far. Oh, what's going on?
Speaking of things that we don't want to see, we did also pick up just now. Andy's gonna pick this up very shortly in Graveyard Ledge. A small key to Hera. Again, once we end up getting up to Hera, which of course is also one of the longest treks you can make in inverted, just because you can't take any shortcuts over there. You gotta take the long way. We can also have the option of sitting in the basement for another minute in order to try and get an item.
Oh, like flippers?
Oh man, that would be quite painful. And I mean, and again, just inverted, like some of the decision making, right, and analysis changes, right? Because if you decide to go back up the mountain, while we do have a flute, we can get up there. At least we don't have to necessarily rescue the old man because both runners have already done that. But in order to get to Hera, man, that is such an investment of time, especially without boots.
Yeah, it really is. It's a long climb every single time. Okay, so the cape that Obscure pulled out of Agate Tower is not gonna lead to anything on Pyramid Ledge, or on the Bumper Ledge anyway. So, yeah, so far it might just be, I don't know, to get to, logically, like, the chest in Ice or Mire. I think that's still logic that counts, and otherwise it's gonna be smart.
Yeah, and of course, I don't think anyone's ever going to turn down an invisibility item, especially, at this point. Especially, if we only on Master Sword, Cape, at Ganon is certainly going to be very friendly.
Yeah, definitely. At this rate, if we find, like, Hookshot or something, then it's going to be very nice for Vidi as well.
Oh,
so
yeah, that's true.
those are a couple things that Obscure maybe can get a small advantage out of. But yeah, so far routes have been so divergent that it's gonna take a while for us to really see where we stand in relation to each other. That's the second totality.
That is, yes.
I don't think we saw anything from Lumberjack though.
No, yeah. I mean, and so right, so it kind of maybe looks like that we don't necessarily need to beat Aghanim, at least certainly for any type of access. That being said, though, in inverted, even if we end up doing Aghanim, having that light world portal at the castle is actually quite nice in terms of routing.
Ooh, that's a nice small key.
That is a very interesting small key as well. So right, I think that's collectively our second pod key. Obscure ended up picking one up earlier from Kakariko, so more access to pod. We do have, of course, also the hammer that Obscure found in Kakariko as well. No bow yet to be seen, but more keys means we get some more access, at least in the front of pod.
Yeah, I think... yeah, 2 keys would probably be enough to entice a first dip pretty soon. We still have a little bit of overworld that's enough to prioritize first. Like, Annie obviously still has the entirety of Kakariko and all that. Like, dungeon-wise, like, what are dungeons that Andy would like to do? Like, Desert is only 2 items. Oh, well, I guess theoretically it would be 3 items with Lamo as well. But, like, Lamo isn't even in logic without a small key yet.
Yeah, right. And again, it's we only have the book as our only entry to desert, right? Can't backdoor anything, and so like it's a surprisingly long investment there as well, right? Because you have to go through the front door, walk all the way around to the back, and then it's these are things you have to like keep in mind, basically, if you want to decide basically to dive a dungeon.
Yeah, and it is quite early in the seed, but I'm a little surprised that we didn't see a pet check at this rate. Actually, like just because. I am actually not sure, like, what collective wisdom the runners have about crystals and pendants. But if I knew that Desert and Mire were pendants and I had the keys to both of them, then I might be a little inclined to do an early check. But then again, we're still pretty far away from like being able to clear everything that we want anyway.
No, but that's actually certainly a very good point. Just because again, inverted, right? Both runners ended up coming from the north, right, out of Sanctuary, did Graveyard Ledge, and then they both went into Lost Woods, right? So that would have been a potential good opportunity. So we're already kind of there. Probably not going to be too big of a trek just to get some extra knowledge because we already did find the book.
Yeah. Okay, so now we're gonna get our Smith checks pretty soon, I suppose. Quick race game check, and then yeah, with the mirror myths, like these are some pretty nice checks to be able to get out of the way early.
Yes, and of course, it certainly does seem that Andy Obscure have both play inverted a good amount of times. Picking up the Smith here, it can actually be something that, especially early on, if you're quite a bit newer to the mode, can actually be something that's very easily overlooked.
Or mirror bond.
Or mirror bond, yes. Yeah, and of course, for those of you who are astute observers, we actually do see that all the bushes here around the library are actually, well, gone. In this case, we got a bit of a landscaping deal from Hyrule Castle, just because, well, if you ever try and try to get the Smith with those bushes, it is quite precise, and the developers, in this case, took a bit of mercy and just got rid of all of them, so we wouldn't have to basically be as tedious and precise in this case.
Right, what is our Smith going to give? A bow.
Oh, it's a bow! Very nice. All right, so pod on the table, Eastern Palace on the table.
Yeah, that's. I would almost say let's see the screaming for us to go there at this rate.
Yeah.
I mean, that's definitely a big lead. It's a whole bunch of items as well. Even if we just have 2 keys to pod, yeah, at this rate, it's kind of hard to say. Like, you would really want a third key in order to have easy access to the back and then to Helma. But I think even with 2 keys, you would just do Eastern first, and then if you don't get a third key, you would still do pod. And you can even combine it with Sahasra as well, and get the info deal out of it.
Oh yeah. Actually, man, that is some pretty nicely. That's actually something that's really lucrative at this point, right? Basically everything, especially with the mirror, right? We can basically just do everything in one spot.
Yeah, so density-wise, the chance that you need to do both dungeons is super high. You already have the 2 big keys. I assume that both runners will go there pretty soon, and
Yeah.
Obscure still needs the big key for Eastern, but I think there was a mini Moldrum cave, so he'll get there pretty soon.
Yeah. Yeah, and of course, again, the flute only works in Dark World, not Light World, so it's not quite as easy going over to the Eastern Palace area as a, flute to 5 type of thing. That's kind of maybe why Obscure also kind of trying finishing up his route. You can see basically a lot of Light World overworld, just because we don't really have that kind of mobility that we have in the Dark Worlds. Now, that being said, he could also still go to the Dark World and then, go into the portal. In Dark Spot 5, but still, that is something that, you still have to consider when routing these things.
Yeah, and considering he was still bringing around the purple chest, it made sense to just finish this part of the Light World. And I'll assume you'll just go east from here, go to Mini Moldrum Cave, and maybe then you'll mirror Flute to 5 and then go into the Light World to do Eastern. And then mirror over back to Pod after that.
Yeah, I mean, and again, Light World inverted travel actually does take a little bit of thought. It's not necessarily just kind of like an autopilot, flute to 5, right? Sometimes you really have to think about, in this case, what's going to be the most efficient routes. Andy, correctly remembering, in this case, he still does have the purple chest, so he needs to basically want to turn that in first. Obscure, actually, for what it's worth, by not having the Master Sword, it's going to save just a little bit of time over Andy, just because Andy's going to have to sit through the Bombos animation, and Obscure just got to read the tablets.
Super long animation, it's going to save 5 seconds. Alright, that's the desert knowledge at least, so he's going to decide to not do desert yet.
Very fair. I mean, Andy, of course, is the one with Eastern Palace Big Key. And
I can't believe that's a mirror bomb.
Oh, so man. Alright, safely, within the premise of Dark World, Andy with all of the keys, right? Eastern Palace, Pod small keys. I think, as mentioned earlier, this area is pretty lucrative. We're gonna go and hopefully clear out a couple dungeons at this point.
I'll be curious to see if Obscure actually decides to go to Ice Shroud Cave here or not, because I think that's something that Andy skipped earlier.
You are correct, actually. Yes. Andy did not, in fact, go over to Ice Rock Cave. We're actually also missing, the flipper, waterfall area checks. I mean, we don't have flippers, of course, but of course, Zora himself with, 1,000 rupees, basically, between, among Obscure and Andy, that is certainly going to be very much in logic.
Yeah. Alright, so, I mean, if Ice Rock Cave is gonna have something again.
Andy doesn't even have the excuse in this case of being crabbed. He had a sword ready to go for this guy, so...
Yeah, and there's also no real easy way to route this in, so... But no simple flute to 8 at this time, so we'll see. Hold your breath.
That's right. Eastern Palace has Ace, speaking of. Alright, that's a big key to Ice Palace. Certainly gonna be really nice for Andy when he eventually dives into Ice Palace. Always gonna have a big key before going in.
Yeah, at this rate, we actually have the big keys to both our Pyramid Fairy crystals as well. Okay!
Ooh! Alright, third pot key available for both our runners. That is actually gonna be pretty nice.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. That's definitely one in the very comfortable zone that you would really love to have. Oh, that's just Walkie to Desert. Oh, yeah.
That is not what you want to see. Alright, well, so for what it's worth now, Andy did make a correct decision for delaying Desert, just because we didn't have the small key, but now, if he wants to go back, we do have everything we could use in order to clear out Desert.
Yeah, I'm getting some real mixed signals from this seat at this rate.
Alright, looks like Obscure gonna stay true to his fish form. Going to pretend that he in fact can swim. Flipper's optional. Gonna go check out what is in some of the sequence broken places. But man, Eastern Palace has such good value today. We've got the hook shot as well. So it was good, Ice Palace, we have a big key, which is always really nice. We were really happy, and then we got a little bit, worrisome with that Desert Palace small key, and we're back to happy again with the hook shots.
Yeah, it's I guess that's Hookshot Cave. Other than that, we don't really have anything that it opens up. It's just really nice to have.
Oh yeah. I mean, we can one-shot a lot of enemies in this case, like the mini one, for example. Also, a little bit of nicer movement. We can basically hook the things, saving us a bit of time. That is an Ice Rod on Zora. Wow.
Alright, I mean, it's a little debatable whether or not it's necessary, but we definitely love to see it.
Yeah, right. We don't have complete knowledge quite yet whether or not Turok is a crystal or not, but yes, as you mentioned, always nice to see the Ice Rod sooner rather than later. Looks like Obscure, though. We do have a mystery small key on the ledge. Looks like he's going to actually try and get it. Because, of course, you know, he knows, in this case, how to swim in dark water. Look at that. Look at that fish, Ari.
It's such a talented fish. Oh, it's also something. Let's see. We're getting all the really annoying small keys out of the way early. Like Feast Down small, Hera small, or all the things that you don't really want to see after you already completed the dungeon.
Yeah, that's true. That is certainly true. Yeah, and Obscure picking up our first GT small key. Or maybe second GT small key. Thanks, Sammy, for marking it.
Obscure also has seen enough. Decides to go over to the pod eastern area.
Yeah, very, very understandable again. You know, his loadout's actually quite good. I believe it looks like right, he doesn't have the third right. Collectively we've seen 3 pod keys, but it looks like Obscure still only has 2 pod keys. But yeah, I mean this is probably more than enough basically to sway someone to come over here.
Yeah, so one was in Ice Rod Cave and the other one was in the front of Escape then, right?
Right. Alright, nice quick kill on Andy's side. We have got our first crystal of the match. It's just shy at the 40-minute mark.
Yeah, and for a key sanity, that's really not unreasonable.
Oh yeah, so. Especially Eastern Palace, surprisingly. I don't know, I mean, there are some big keys that can be so elusive, right? Eastern Palace big key, Desert Palace big key, and somehow we managed to find the boat and the big key Eastern all before having to dive in.
Saga would be so happy to see it.
He would, yes.
Alright, what's our info going to be? Turtle Rock.
Turtle Rock. Of course. Well, you know, Obscure, that Ice Rod still come into play. The fact that Obscure does have it, you know, Trinex, of course, is not going to be as, you know, difficult or tedious to get to in this case because we can backdoor it. You know, we do have the mirror. Certainly, Trinex could give us a very valuable item.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, that Ice Rod is going to be very interesting once we find the Turtle Rock big and the Fire Rod.
Right. Yeah, that's true. We do need a Fire Rod at this point.
Because that hook shot also. Well, we still need a Quake, to be honest, but it also unlocked entry to Mire. Yeah. Anyway, not to be too hype about some very unlikely thing in the future. And he found his third pod key in the back of Sahasrah's closet, so he'll be able to at least easily route the pod and be able to get everything except for Harmless Hellway and Vanilla Big Key Chest.
Yeah, but I mean, these pod keys, for what it's worth, has actually been, you know, fairly convenient / on the way. Nothing really, you know, like both in this case, Obscure and Andy are going to come in here into pod with 3 keys each, right? Which actually can be pretty generous, honestly.
Yeah, for sure. And it's definitely also a big bullseye from, hey, let's go here.
Yeah, exactly.
We got all the items. And of course, we're just going to see that it means, hey, you need to beat pod. That's it. Like, you just need the keys for pod and there's going to be nothing in here. Because sometimes key sanity is like that. Like 90% of the time, pod is just going to be loaded. And the other 10, it's going to just have rupees and heart pieces. And you're like,
yeah, that is.
But I have 5 keys. Why?
Yeah, and it's kind of looking at that so far. Nothing really of value here in the front of pod.
It's important to note that a lot in pod right now is not in logic. Like Helma is not in logic, Harmless Hellway and Finlibiki Chats are not in logic, but also Dark Maze. But like, who knows where all the other small keys are? They might as well just be in Hookshot Cave at this rate.
Yeah, right, and of course, you know, I'm also 100% certain that Andy and Obscure both know the pod key logic. Probably not going to stop in this case, Andy or Obscure, from trying to sequence break some things because again, you're here, you want to try and get the maximum value. In this case, the more items you can get out of pod, probably going to be the better. Now, actually,
Yeah.
I guess I'm curious, Ari. Like, you're here with 3 podkeys. You do have access to Helmasaur. Like, you know it's a crystal. Like, would you just go beat Helmasaur, or would you try and maybe, you know, save the key, or try and hope to find a key later and then save Helmasaur?
No, I would have definitely, like, after right side, I would have probably gone straight to Helma first, and then
Okay.
just do the back. Yeah, I don't think it's very likely that you don't do Helma here, just because you need to anyway, and the chance that you need to come back with just 2 checks left is pretty small. Because I don't really think you come back until you found like 5 keys anyway. So at that point you just do 2 of the... Yeah, hard to say. Like maybe
Okay.
I would have to hear what Andy's rationale is for his decision.
Yeah, speaking. All right, so we do potentially have our first quote unquote value in pot is that small key to Turtle Rock. Of course, we do know it was a pendant on Andy's side, so me may not be necessarily the most excited about it.
He did find a bottle as well.
Oh yeah, that was also true. That's a good point.
That's,
yeah, he has a fairy in a bottle as well. Right, that actually does unlock the kit. That is one additional check for us.
Other than that, it's been semi-dry.
Yeah.
It's really hard to say.
Yeah, we got a compass, we got, you know, a couple bombs, we got a couple heart pieces, we got a couple more heart pieces.
Yeah, okay, so he does decide to go back to Helma at this rate. That makes sense. I do think it would have been slightly more optimal to just go straight to Helma after doing right side, but it's like small, and it's so easy to just kind of blank on that for a little bit. And no harm done. Oh, nice beam for the switch. That's actually pretty tight. It's a lot tighter than with the bow or Samaria.
Yeah, speaking of Samaria though, don't have to employ any type of NMG stress. We have the convenience of a cane block, basically, to hold down that switch, so it's going to save a little bit of time. Another notable thing between Andy and Obscure is that at least Andy's on Fighters, or on Master Sword. Gonna have a little bit more of leeway, at least for phase 2. Obscure are probably going to have to resort either using the hammer or maybe some amount of like bow and like bomb strats. Andy might actually just opt to kind of slash a couple times, you know, versus, you know, just like basically pure hammer or bow.
Yeah, and chat's actually saying that Obscure did not do Saha yet. So he only has 2 keys at this rate, which is going to make routing a little bit more difficult. So that added with the sword difference is going to make Andy's route through pod a lot faster.
That's actually a very good point. Hopefully we don't have to do mimics too many times, because that is kind of like one of our only ways to get back here. Yeah, but I think, right, as kind of we've seen, Helmasaur, of course, the value is, you know, outside of the crystal, going to be 2BD, but yeah, we got, what, a small key to Turtle Rock and a fairy in a bottle as our value for pot today.
Yeah, which is a little bit on the meager side. But very nice Helma kill on Andy's side.
Yeah.
The Beatles being a bully on Obscure side.
Thank you,
Hookshot.
Oh, just 10 arrows too on Helmasaur. Yeah, so pot basically, outside of the things that basically are not in logic, it didn't really have too much else. I think it looks like Obscure just basically, he's like, you know what, I'm willing to walk all the way around because, as you mentioned, the Beatles were not kind to him.
No, they really weren't. Oh, look at all that information.
Oh,
alright,
wow.
well. Huh, so that means... I don't think that Andy knows about Meyer. Did he not get the Meyer? Interesting. But, oh, he's going to just do ice now.
Alright, okay.
Yeah.
Well, we have a believer in the rule of fire, potentially. The Ice Palace, he does have the Ice Palace big key that ended up picking up from Eastern Palace. And of course, we have the Hookshot, we have the Cane. We do have, in fact, only combos, but you know, who wouldn't be surprised to see a fire just kind of pop in here?
Yeah, I mean, flippers could be anywhere. At this point, it's not very important, I guess, to, like, we still need so much that following logic just for the flippers is not very reasonable.
Yeah, no, that's certainly very certainly. Wouldn't it be nice to have some boots doing ice physics of any type?
Yeah, it really would.
I guess for what it's worth, right? Andy and Obscura do have the Canis Maria, so we don't have to necessarily go through like the NMG Ice Palace bottom jump method, so they don't have to necessarily set up anything without boots.
Yeah, and these rooms actually don't get sped up that much with boots anyway, so I guess doing ice bootsless compared to doing ice bootsless with IPBJ is quite a big difference.
I guess like boots would kind of help maybe with like ice physics. It looks like you can basically get a little bit more control, but hopefully we're not gonna have to deal with that too much. Man, so speaking of the value here in ice though, really not much. We have another GT small key, but other than that, we've just got a couple more resources that we can't even hang on to at this point. Man, that was actually really nicely maneuvered room on Andy's side, especially with that boots.
That was so clean.
Yeah, and of course, thank you, Full Magic Bar and Forest Bombos. This is going to be able to get us the rest of the way. Another small key to pod. Oh, man.
All right,
that's our collective 5th pod key.
So it's going to be vanilla big key or... Oh, that's somewhat vanilla, I suppose. That's funny.
Yeah, that's true.
Why is that there? Yeah, so... Oh, that's really awkward. If there is going to be something in either of the 6 key locked locations, then it might be a while before either of the runners comes back.
Yeah, and again though, like, not the point you brought up though, like the 6 keys could just be literally just be early, so you have to go kill Helma. Like, yeah, I think as seen before, Helma is a 5/6 crystal as well, so that might potentially be, Pyramid Fairy, but you know what? Ice Palace is the place to be, because who needs flippers when we got the boots?
It's the way better footwear.
That's exactly correct. I wonder where those flippers are. I mean, we're definitely still gonna need. I mean, not only of course Ice Palace is a crystal, right? We are gonna, need it logically, but of course we see Andy can just bypass that, along with Obscure. But we do see the Swamp Palace, of course, is a crystal that is hard required. So I'm curious to see what those flippers are.
After all that, I think we can quickly do a quick summation of everything that we still need, because we're just gonna need Fire Rod flippers, Thieves big, and Swamp small. And I think at that point we're already in go mode. So things escalated really quickly, even though it didn't really feel like we found a lot. But we could have just done so much already over the course of the seed. Because we got our first crystal at 40 minutes, you said? But we're gonna get our third one at 52.
Yeah, that's actually really, really fast progress.
And at that time we just full cleared two entire dungeons. Well, somewhat full cleared, I suppose.
Andy, I understand that he does, have the red move. He does have a fairy, but so he's quite aggressive here with Cold Stare. All right, phew.
All right, very nice cleanup from both runners here. Like you said, Obscure pulled out the bow just because dealing with Helma, if you're not very used to doing the hammer strats, is quite the pain.
Yeah, and of course, right. No boots, means that we don't end up getting any type of spin speed Helma, in this case, basically trying to offset, the hammer hitbox, for Helmasaur, so definitely have to be a little bit more creative. Well, hello. I believe we switched audio.
Sure did. Some bumping right here.
Yeah, some nice jams.
Sorry, Andy. You're gonna need to lamp a little bit. Or drop a lot of bombs.
Oh yeah, that's true. I wonder if Andy's actually remembered that he has actually, in fact, defeated Armos, or basically spanned a bunch of arrows, but he did.
Oh, that's also a surprise small key. He'll be grabbing that on the way back, probably, and then solidly lead his way over to Zora. So it's kind of tracing Obscure's footsteps here. Obscure is going to find his spot small now, and is probably not going to be
he was not going to be happy. Just because, right, we actually did see him do a second trips over to the Bowlock side, which of course we only saw Andy do once, right, because he had the extra key.
Yeah, and it's a pretty big time investment to keep going over to right side over and over.
Alright, looks like, pugs can swim just as well as fish. Maybe arguably, because we did end up visiting Hobo, and we ended up getting out of our Ice Palace prison.
And do you not want that small key? Oh, he wants to go to Ice Rock Cave. Okay.
Oh, yeah, looks like it.
Alright.
Yeah. Of course, with Boots, I assume he's gonna go do Ice Rock Cave and then, like, do a water walk, like a normal water walk, and then maybe get, like, Hylia?
Yeah, that seems pretty reasonable.
Now, of course, Andy still does have, in this case, like, Waterfall Fairy and Zora. I guess I'm not sure in this case. I guess he could just keep it still up deleting, right? Because who needs flippers, right? Who needs flippers to get any of this stuff?
Yeah, the only thing that Andy might need is a certain amount of bombs, because he is going to be pretty low, and if he messes up the setup once, he's going to be out for a little bit.
Also a very excellent point.
He got this 50-50 here, and he gets, okay, so he has 2 attempts.
Of course. Meanwhile, though, Obscure, very recently, back here up the mountain, using, of course, the cave to try and get through these Lionels, gonna visit Hookshot Cave, maybe to try and get a couple extra goodies. Of course, we know in this case, we saw Andy pull out a sequence-broken set of boots that we would really like to see Obscure end up kind of wearing. Third key to turn a rock.
Can we stop getting stuff from pendants? Because it's freaking me out a little.
Oh man, that was a very nice Ancilla on Andy's side. Super clean.
Nothing in Hookshot Cave though. That's really disappointing. Andy, please.
Yep.
Okay,
Alright, okay, yes. Swimming is in fact very difficult, but of course Andy being in big flipper state, I mean, you get hit once, you're not in for a good time.
So, do you reckon this is just going to be a hero play from Obscure? Like, you can get 5 out of the 6 items, you just can't get the big key or the big chest?
Yeah, no, that's actually a very good point. But, I mean, he's here up the mountain. Oh, he also remembered Mimic Cave as well. That's right, we did pick up a hammer. But yeah, like, the fact that, we're here kind of up on the mountain, especially when Obscure doesn't have boots, right? It's kind of even a bigger investment for him. Maybe he is just trying to get everything he can. As you mentioned, right? We with a hook shot, we can Herapod up. I'm sure Obscure knows some sort of, like, boostless version of Herapod. With the Hera Small Key and the lamp, we're going to be able to sit through the basement as well. So, it's certainly going to be pretty high item density for Obscure.
You might need it, Andy. Like,
I was wondering. I was like, was he thinking about picking it up?
Like I enjoy your optimism, but I think you'd rather have an in-logic ice rod than an out-of-logic small key. Like, of course, he wants both, so he's just gonna go for the setup as well.
Sure. I mean, and we of course you've seen Andy do, I think, what, 3 until a big flipper at this point? Oh man, beautiful. I mean, we are in the semifinals, right? We have Andy Obscure, and nothing basically is can really, like, stop these guys in terms of terrain.
Yeah, they are well versed in most, if not all, of the minor glitches at this rate, so no surprise that Andy, I mean, with Andy's sheer amount of experience over the course of the years, yeah.
Yeah, the fact that he won the 2018 both fall and spring tournaments just probably also goes to show you just how, I mean, everyone I think is probably well aware of how long Andy's been in the community, but I mean, the fact that he was already kind of a champion back in 2018, like 4 years ago, certainly has not, gone down any type of experience. We did get the silvers here in Hera. That's also a nice find.
Yeah, his longevity is just crazy. But yeah, the silver is definitely nice, especially if we're gonna stay low on swords.
Yeah, that's also a very good point. The silvers are gonna be quite the nice, boon for Phase 4 Ganon, if of course we have to basically just spin, a million give or take times for Ganon.
Yeah, other than that, for bosses, it's probably not gonna do much if we are not going to Phase 50. That's still TBD, considering it's a pendant. Yeah, we're cautiously optimistic that everything is just going to be very soon.
Yes.
We're just going to find flippers and a swamp small, and then the rest is in swamp or something.
Yeah, and of course, since Myra's a pendant, we would like to never see Quake. So we would never basically have tempted to get inside. Andy tried to get through the Lionels, not quite. Of course, we do see even on Master Sword, right? Lionels don't even care whatsoever. They just keep charging at you. Of course, Andy, yeah. Andy, of course, being on Red Mail, I don't think he cares at this point.
Yeah, it still has fairy as well. Yeah, that's still
that's
something that we haven't seen. Oh, nice.
Oh.
Skull. Oh, okay.
Man. Alright. Well, I mean, so again, right, we're talking about, logical small keys, right? We do need all three skull with small key to put modular logic, so it certainly could just be something that is there, to indicate that yes, in fact, we do need to kill skullwoods and beat the game today.
Yep.
Alright, Andy, though, back on the mountain, just kind of maybe potentially gonna follow Obscure's path and do Mimic Cave, and then also potentially make his way over to Hera, or just forget about Mimic Cave. We're gonna go to Hera now.
Yeah, maybe Andy is just hoping that whatever is in Hera will lead to more in Todoroki than any other. Okay, that's really interesting information.
Ooh, that's actually a very good point as well. Yeah, because we actually have picked up a good number of Turtle Rock small keys as well.
Yeah, I don't think Andy has anything left to do in Turtle Rock at this rate. I think he full cleared everything, and he hasn't gotten like a big key or a fire rod. So the other checks are available. But that Swamp Small that's behind the Hera Big could definitely be something, I suppose.
Yeah, so right, and as you just mentioned, right, we need that Hera Big Key to put at least the upstairs of Hera in logic somehow. We don't actually know where that is. But of course we are still missing the flippers. Where are the flippers? But I mean, like, this is something that we basically can't skirt around, but I think once we find flippers, Swamp Palace is gonna look pretty juicy.
Yeah, at this rate, kind of curious. I guess Obscure is gonna do Spy Cave now, but I think Desert is kind of the most lucrative option that both runners have at this rate. Obscure obviously could also just fake Flipper into ice like Andy did. But considering he's been mostly in logic so far, I'm not sure if he's willing to do that.
Yeah, no, and that's certainly a very good point, right? We have everything we need for Desert, right? We have the Desert Small Key, we have the Desert Big Key, we have a fire source in this case, which is our lamp. Another skull with small key, interesting.
Well, okay, that's great. Just give us the fire rod then, I suppose.
Yeah, that would be quite nice. Yeah, I mean, some of our big ticket items, right? Fire rod, in this case, flippers. I mean, they would open up basically a ton of stuff at this point. As you said, looks like you have correctly predicted this case. Obscure is right now willing to go into an in-logic Desert Palace, as opposed to a sequence-broken Ice Palace.
Yeah, and makes sense. Even though this is a pendant, it's gonna hurt a little bit, especially because Andy is just gonna gain like seconds with those boots.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, at this rate, Obscure probably really wants to find, well, not that he knows it, but he's hoping to find flippers sooner rather than later. And then maybe find something like GT Picky in a really awkward spot that makes Andy full clear GT.
So I guess a question for you, Ari. So if you're Obscure, and you end up finding flippers, right? Like, do you have a preference between going into Ice versus Swamp? Like, I mean, both are pretty, both are crystal dungeons that we want to complete, but I mean, we know, right, from Andy's side that the boots are there, but is there anything that's going to sway, I guess, Obscure one way or another, do you think?
I think I would tend towards Ice Palace if I'm still feeling okay, just because with Kane and Big Key Small Key, it's very fast to full clear.
Okay.
With Swamp, you always have the decision of left side Swamp in your head, and you do not have the Big Key for Swamp yet, which could be a factor as well.
Oh, that is also a good point. Yes, that is the Big Key to Swamp Palace is in fact very much absent in this case from our tracker.
And like obviously, it might as well be in GT. Like it's not gonna lock anything in for Swamp proper. So it's not that it's necessary, but it is something that's. We're talking about something we didn't want to find.
Yeah, the value here of a Desert Palace being a pendant dungeon is just begets another pendant dungeon, because now we have Mire fully open to us. Thank you, game, for giving us another decision. I don't know. Would you be tempted, Aaron? Because like you're right here, right? like in Desert Palace like area. Like it's just like the mire is like a mirror away.
I mean, at this rate, you're not going to do it. Like, if you are so committed to not fake flippering into ice, then I think you're just gonna keep doing dungeons that are in logic and hope to find flippers or whatever. Like, I think, like, I guess that Obscure is kind of banking on flippers being go mode or something at this rate. Which could very well be true, but that still means that he's gonna miss out on the boots for a very, very long time, if not the entire seed.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, that's actually very possible if he's kind of banking on that, because of the boots for an Iced Tea, you know, in Ice Palace, which is not, like, in any scenario, is not gonna be on your path in Ice Palace, like, at all. Alright,
No.
Andy. I don't actually, I guess, I remember both runners, I guess, like, doing Meyer Shed initially, but I guess maybe Andy didn't quite either get the medallion. Certainly, I think he, but at least he realizes now he doesn't have Quake. But he's gonna get Quake very shortly, so I guess, you know, if he had any intentions, I guess that this clears up some intentions for what he wants to do, in this case, after Desert, because he's going to be able to get Meyer entry, like, immediately, at this point.
Yeah, it could be that Andy was in, like, not inverted mode and just wanted to mirror into Desert.
That could be
then realized, oh,
oh yeah, that's also true. Alright, Andy's taking a very slightly different route here in Desert Palace. Like, he's basically going right to left. I think we also saw Obscure kind of do, like, the quote-unquote, like, normal, not inverted version, basically going for, like, map chess and then kind of our way over.
Yeah, it's probably a small difference. I think Andy's route is, like, slightly optimal, but it's not gonna make or break the case.
Yeah, but I think also, as you mentioned, right, the fact that, you know, Andy does have boots over Obscure, you know, even though Obscure is doing a great job with the hook shot, you know, trying to kind of minimize some of the distance and getting some extra speed, you just really can't beat boots, you know, dashing basically through these really long hallways back and forth.
Yeah. There is a NMG commentator who always likes to say that Desert is made for the boots. Like, you get the boots, and then you need to bonk a couple things to get the book, etc., etc. But this whole dungeon is just designed to teach you, like, hey, it's a long hallway, you really want to dash.
Oh yeah.
It's,
it is quite good game design, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's gonna save Andy a lot of time. And at this rate, it's not gonna be too long before Andy's just like the entire Ice Palace over Obscure.
Yeah, I mean, especially, you know, we talk about both Obscure and Andy, you know, having, you know, very excellent execution. I mean, we not only, of course, is a boost just gonna give you, you know, ability to dash, right? Some amount of speed. Like, you put a sword and boots on Andy, like, he is quite formidable at that point.
Yeah, that's
like you probably want to face Andy like without boots versus with boots.
Yeah, and there are still like a lot of nuances to like Boots' movement and Boots' execution. And there we find a big wall. I mean,
okay, alright, okay, yeah, that's something better to see sooner rather than later, right? That is probably going to, once we have flippers, right? No one's going to probably be, you know, shying away from Swamp Palace because they don't have the key.
Yeah, this might sway ObscureLifeForm's decision to go into Swamp over Ice, though, if
oh yeah, that's also true too.
If the flippers do arrive sooner.
Alright, Andy did in fact pick up his quick medallion from Desert Palace Big Chest, picking up his pendant as well. Of course, neither runner has done a pedestal check. Not sure if we're gonna get it anytime soon, honestly. But certainly maybe that pendant could still be potentially useful. But probably, you know, with Andy's maybe earlier intentions, just gonna go basically hop straight back in his portal, and then, or make a portal and then hop straight into Iron.
Yeah. Also, I totally missed Obscure also getting the Feastone Vicky. So that's cool. Thanks, chat.
Oh yeah, man. We have a lot of options in this case, but and again, you know, we know, of course, you know, from, you know, basically seeing both sides. We saw Andy pull out the boots from Ice Palace, and you know, the fact that Obscure now basically has 3 crystal dungeons, you know, available. Oh, sorry. He doesn't quite have Swamp on the table yet, but he has Thieves Down, versus, you know, which is another clearable dungeon for him. versus Sequence Broken Ice Palace. It's just like, when is he going to basically make a trip up there?
Yeah, like, keeps finding stuff that leads him away from like what we consider his best option to be. But of course, it's so much easier for us and for spectators to say when we have like all the information in the world. But there's just gonna be infinite big keys. Well, now at least Swamp Small is in logic. It would be very hilarious if the flippers were gonna be in the big chest.
Oh my gosh, dude. Oh, alright, and the Fire Rod. Alright, so Meyer certainly has, you know, quite the loadout. But again, this just gives more options for Obscure to not go to Ice Palace. Speaking of though, I mean, in terms of like equipment difference, right? So Obscure still hasn't been to the front of Escape. He is still on Fighter Sword. I mean, like, from his perspective, I think, thank goodness for Silvers, because this is going to be quite the awful Vitreous fight if he didn't have them.
Sure! There's the bridge!
Wait,
just...
no, go back, go back! I hope he remembers.
There's a 6 out of 8 right there.
We're just, I guess we're just not going to see that chest on Obscure's side. Hopefully it doesn't have anything bad.
What if it's a sword?
I don't know, dude!
Anyway.
See, this is why this is the value of compasses. Not even MC boss level, we already know the boss here, but it can certainly be a very helpful reminder, you know, if you especially have the compass and you would like to know how many items you've already gotten out of the dungeon.
Okay. Anyway.
I'm sure it'll be fine. You know, if he doesn't ever realize that it could be a thing and there's nothing there, there's no harm lost.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you know,
then it's just like
it's
a Giga Brain time save.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
That's how Rando works.
I mean, you know, we already pulled out the Hera big key. We already pulled out the Fire Rod from Meyer. I mean, surely that's like all, you know, the value here, right? Surely.
Surely, yes. All right, there was the Thieves big. So there was so much in there. Brilliant. So at this point, we're pretty much flippers and GT big key away from.
Oh right, we still need the GT big key of all things.
With
that is
those,
a very excellent
all the
point.
GT smalls, though, I wouldn't be too surprised if it was behind GT. But
oh yeah, that's true. That's true. It certainly does not preclude a GT big key being in the dungeon. It just does not, in this case, happen like it's a bad location.
But yeah, it might also just be, I don't know, in the back of Skullwoods.
That's true. Alright, Andy picking up his Fire Rod. We are now, of course, with that Thieves Town big key, with the Thieves Town small key that we end up picking up as well. ObscureLifeForm is on his way to his next completable crystal dungeon. Unfortunately, he is still flopping and not dashing. Again, oh, see, 50 rupees in the bridge chest, you know, no worries. Andy not committing actually to Vitreous. Interesting.
I'm not too surprised. He has the entirety of, like, he has the back of Thieves and the back of Skullwoods open now. That's 6 very on the route checks. He's 1 item away from going to GT. The chance that anything is behind Meyer, well, because Tower of Hera big was in Meyer big chest, so that kind of like already is like, okay, well there was something that I needed behind Meyer big key. So in a way you can kind of relativize. English is hard. Like kind of talk it over in your head. Okay, I don't need to do Vidi. It's costly. I don't want to spend 2 minutes on one check.
No, it's certainly right. It's certainly very reasonable. Yeah, again, like the fact that he is now, you know, 1/ maybe, you know, like 2 items from, you know, go mode, like full go mode. Certainly can be very understandable for him to try and do more item deaths and checks, you know, especially for clearable crystal dungeons, right? We're actually going to see potentially, you know, and again, you mentioned, you know, that NMG commentators sometimes like to actually point out how it's good game design in order to basically, you know, show Desert Palace was a place that's made for boots. Andy is going to potentially just die, apparently, up here in the attic. You know, Thieves Town is going to say it's also another great dungeon to demonstrate the power of the boot. We have a lot of also very long hallways, and honestly, even with the hiccup that Andy had in Thieves Town attic, would not be surprised in this case at some point if Andy basically just eclipses Obscure. In this case, it takes a lead over, you know, in the Thieves Town progression.
Yeah, and because both of them did 7 out of 8 checks in Mire, it's completely fair. It's not like one gained 2 minutes over the other by skipping a location. No,
speaking of, speaking of, so we just found our GC Vicky in Maiden Cell. That is one, I guess, viewer queue we have to go worry about.
Yeah, that's gonna be really rough for Obscure at this rate, I think. There's gonna be it's gonna be a very weird sequence of events that causes Andy not to find flippers before, like, some point that is beyond saving.
Yeah, no, that's actually right, because at this point we are just officially flippers for go mode, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess, so Obscure, I think once he finds the flipper, I mean, okay, so I guess it seems like boots are not logically required, but not having boots, you know, versus, but for basically the entire seed, versus Andy having boots for, you know, a good half of the seed, it's certainly going to be some amount of deficit that's going to be, that Obscure is going to have to overcome.
Actually, in hindsight, I think a big reason why Obscure did not go to Ice before Mire is that Obscure really had a poor equipment set for Holster as well. That's probably a big because he's been stuck on Fighter Sword since Paradox.
That's true. That's actually very true.
And the difference between Cold with Hammer and Fighter Sword and Hammer and Master Sword is humongous. So it could be that even though it was pretty tempting to go to Ice just for being able to full clear it, even if it's out of logic, the length it would take for Cold Stare, yeah, it's probably pretty daunting against someone like Andy.
Yeah, and you know, even though we do have, you know, a ton of money in order to maybe buy like an extra safety or potion or something, I mean, we didn't have the fire rod either, right? You know, it's not like, you know, we could even basically buy a blue potion and then expand the fire rod. You know, we only had bombos, and yeah, like that, that second phase is gonna be pretty awful.
Alright. Sync pet check. Neither of the runners realized that flippers could not have been on pet because there was a Turtle Rock small on Helia Island, I think? Or was it Helia Island or Zora Ledge? Either. They were flippers.
Yeah, that's right. It was like Helia Island. That's right. That was another Turtle Rock small key. The one on Zora Ledge was a GT small key.
Ah, okay, fair enough.
Potentially interesting for Obscure if he. I guess, I don't know if like a sword would have tempted him at all, like, because he is kind of missing one, and he already does have 2 pendants for what it's worth.
Yeah, true.
But for Andy, yeah, I'm not sure if there's anything that would have, you know, he's already skipped out of Biddy, and so I'm not really sure if there's anything that could be on pet that would tempt him. Alright, starting, of course, both moth fights, Andy, of course, with boots, being able to get down to Mothula slightly quicker.
Can't even chalk that one up to a sword defense. That was just a really well-handled hammer.
Oh, yeah.
And very well from Obscure as well.
Yeah, no, I mean, the fact that we have hammers is such a godsend, especially on Obscure's side. He's like, I don't want to fight this with Fighter Sword. But again, these guys are in semifinals. They're going to move on. One of them is going to move on, of course, you know, to the finals. But I mean, like, execution that both runners put on, you know, this race has been quite good.
Yeah, for sure. And we're gonna get at least one more race of this.
Oh yeah,
so. Yeah. The amount of checks where the flippers could be is right there. Okay. I mean,
all right. Yep. That's go mode. You know, for a 1:16, 47, 6, something like that. Andy's in go mode. Obscure, a handful of seconds behind him for go mode. It is going to be definitely quite the race, though, in this case. But I guess Obscure still needs a sword from somewhere. I guess we're not sure where, but I mean, he's basically still going to go mode a bunch of dungeons looking for a sword. I'm sure one of them will show up somewhere.
Yeah, and after GT, you can go into Hyrule Castle and find his Master Sword there. But there could also just be one.
Oh yeah.
In the front of GT.
Yeah.
But at least after Agatu, it's pretty easy to go into Haro Castle.
Yeah, one of the benefits actually of, in this case, inverted. You know, that you might think that they're few and far between, but you know, the fact that, you know, inverted, Ganon's tower is actually where Hyrule Castle Tower is. So once in this case you defeat Agatu, you're actually literally like warped like right there, right? So you can actually just go straight back into Ganon's tower.
But it must be an awful feeling to be like, haha, I didn't fake flipper into ice, I'm a genius. And then
And then
turns out that's like,
that's where
haha, I fake flippered into ice and found boots.
yeah.
Yeah.
Alright, so, and of course, I would imagine Obscure is going to check the map chest, maybe compass chest. I mean, like, we did see that Andy already kind of skip out on the map chest, which is like the second chest, I guess, in Spawn Palace, because he is in full go mode. Probably doesn't even look like Tempered Sword is going to be worthwhile to him, but Obscure, of course, Obscure is still missing a sword. He is still going to be looking for something.
Yeah, I would not be surprised if Andy did check the diver down chest and the waterfall chest, just because they only cost seconds.
Right,
instead of like double-digit seconds, for example.
Yeah.
So I think it's pretty reasonable, especially because Andy has been pretty thorough and has cleared quite a bit already. So the amount of locations where the swords could be that GT is pretty small. So unless you really expect both of them to be in GT, I think it's pretty worthwhile to just quickly check a couple on the way checks.
Yeah, and of course, if you know Andy is going to be fortunate enough to find a sword on his way, it's going to save a boatload of time for Ganon.
Yeah, the difference between Tempered and Master on Ganon is quite a bit. Less because we do have silvers, but also for just the ease of which phase 1 and 2 are compared to Master Sword Ganon is such a huge difference. And
I guess like Tempered Silvers is like not as awkward as like Master Sword Silvers, right? And like for phase 4, so
yeah, for sure.
Alright, so we did see half magic. Not really, I think it'd be, at this point, like, any use to us at this point. I mean, I guess it's a little bit nicer of a magic, like, it doesn't take, it's not as much, I guess, like, magic pressure, you know, that we have to have, but we're already on our basically last dungeon, and yeah.
That'd be really good for Obscure, though, for Cold Star. That's gonna be
that's a very excellent point, yeah, I'm only looking at Andy's perspective. Speaking of, we are going to try and do a Master Sword Argus. We're going to try and do a couple quick kills and pokes.
It's a really good start. It's such a hard fight to do with Master Sword.
Yeah. And it looks like also Argus was just like basically just straight charged at Andy too, so not even giving him like that good of a movement pattern either.
Yeah.
Andy?
I agree, Andy. I agree. Yeah, getting anything less than 2 cycle on Argus with Master Sword is so hard. Oh hey look, that's in logic. Anyway. We can get that map that's on bed.
Yes. Well, we can find our way home. We don't know where home is, because in this case it won't tell us, but we are going to be able to find a home somewhere. Obscure!
Oh, let's go.
Nice!
Please don't mirror
nice!
out.
Oh my god. Yeah, in fact, right, so Obscure does not have the luxury of Master Sword, right? So he can't really do what Andy was doing. He does know in this case that silver arrows do one-shot the puffs. This is actually an especially dangerous situation, though, for Obscure, just because it's okay to quick swap between, you know, like the bow, the hookshot.
Yeah, just don't over quick swap, because then you're suddenly on the mirror, and then you get to go through swamp again. It's great. Nice fight, though.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, right, especially the fact that we have both boomerangs in between, like the hook shot and the bow. You know, you basically have to keep swapping, right? So like the chances of error when you quick swap is even higher, which just makes that it's certainly a bit more dangerous.
Alright, so GT is going to be real fast. Not having to check any of the basement, being able to go straight up is very amazing. He has silver arrows, half magic. Even though he's only on Master Sword, the climb should be a breeze. And he's done this hundreds, if not 1,000 times before.
Yeah.
Obscure, sadly, still needs to do ice. He's probably going to check a couple things on the way. The chance that he's gonna do Ice-T, though.
Ice-T is... I mean, well, you know, it could be, you know, he's still missing a sword for what it's worth, right? Maybe he'll. I don't know. I'm grasping at straws here. Like, for him to basically go check Ice Tea, because we know that's where the boots are. Obscure also remembering that, yes, this is, you know, still inverted. We are going to have to go to still Ice Palace in the Dark Worlds.
I mean, I've recently been in a situation where Ice Tea had the boots as well, and I was not going to get it, so... I feel Obscure's pain.
Yeah. I mean, I guess, okay, for what it's worth, Obscure, you know, won't, you know, have any type of, like, you know, mental pressure just because he doesn't know where the boots are, right? You know, at least, like, for all he knows, the boots are in GT because it wasn't logically required here, right?
Yep.
And here it is GT Thingy, so, you know, no harm done. It just, we know that this game, he was so close to that.
It's more painful for us than this for him, yeah. That's the spectator curse.
You were talking about Andy just basically flying through upper GT. He's already at lane 1 too.
Yeah, he's good at the game. If you want to learn more about Link to the Past, be sure to tune into his channel. Also, be sure to follow both Andy and Obscure.
Oh yeah, no,
they're both amazing runners. We'll be seeing more of them soon. TM.
Yes,
I'm not exactly sure when Game 2 is scheduled, but the race should just be as hot as this one.
Oh yeah, and of course, you know, we are down to the final 4 for the tournament, and next week we are also going to be playing for finals and bronze. So Obscure, Andy, GFE, and Schultzer, you will definitely see them, you know, play not necessarily like each other, like in this particular match set, but you will see them definitely play for another couple games next week. And of course, you know, Obscure and Andy, very, very active currently, streams rando pretty much like all day, every day. So, you know, if you want especially more content from these guys, you know, they are go-to people.
Okay, Andy actually checking for another sword here.
Yeah, looks like it. Alright, Obscure is so close. We have 5 out of 8 checks in Ice Palace. Probably gonna be just the 6th, unfortunately, for us. And the 7th one, of course, is not going to be the one that he is going to regret.
We're not going to be seeing that model 2 chest, are we?
Yeah.
We are? We are?
Oh, wow!
Andy!
Andy! Maybe he'll hover over anyway. Guess not.
Where's Andy and what did you do to him? Okay, well, punished. It's crazy too, because Master Sword Modern 2 is quite a bit slower than Tempered. So it's actually even faster to hover if you have Master Sword than it would be otherwise. So that's why I was so surprised, but...
Yeah, it turns out in this case, like, going to the front of Escape actually was quite the play in this case for Andy, you know, just because that is where he found his Master Sword, and that was a triple? That looked like a triple.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that was really hard. Damn. Was close. But, very nice free cycle. Oh, never mind, didn't count as a triple.
Oh, okay. Well, he still's got a 3 cycle for Agatu onto Ganon. I was gonna say though, you mentioned that half matchup is gonna be quite the benefit for Obscure. Yeah, he demolished Cold Stare with that fire rod.
Yeah, it's really good.
Alright, Obscure still looking for a sword. And you see the small key, does not care whatsoever. Alright, where is he going to go find a sword? Maybe he'll do... Well, he'll probably do upper GT before anything else. And then as you mentioned before, once he, in this case, still does not have a sword, you know, Hyrule Castle front is going to be, you know, right there for him. GT basement, like Stalfos room, you know, Hope room are also going to be, like, right there for him. Do Pyramid Fairy? Interesting.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's
on the way.
Yeah. And he's doing some very nice Mario strats with Master Sword. Will be making his way into phase 2 just a little bit. Oh. I guess. Okay, I guess he wanted a better position. I don't know. I don't even know how to do this Mario again. It's like...
Yeah, I mean, well, Andy is doing a really good job. I mean, the point of, in this case, like this Mario block is to try and limit the, you know, knockback from basically whenever you end up making a spin, you know, towards Ganon. And, you know, the position that Andy was in for himself was really, really good. Basically, you just saw that there was basically, like, no difference. While Andy does, in fact, have Red Mill, which, you know, for all intents and purposes is, you know, invincibility, he does still have to be a bit careful with the fire bats. Everything's fine. He
little
has a
bit
parrot.
A little
He
bit
has
of
a parrot.
beeping to stabilize your heart rate.
That's right. That's right.
Okay, how big do you think the chances are that Obscure actually goes to like Stalfo's room and sees a sword
Oh,
with
maybe.
a torch?
Oh. Harry, that's so mean. that would be like just rubbing salt into the wounds. Oh, it looks like we are gonna go visit Stalfos room first. We currently do have all of the GT keys on Obscure side. Meanwhile, Andy is just, yeah, so close. It is pointy, and it has a number, but not quite the sword. Meanwhile, though, Andy has finished up a very, a little bit more of a tenser Ganon fight, but get your GG's up in chat for Andy taking game 1 in the semifinal series versus ObscureLifeForm with a 128-15.
It's an amazing time for Insanity, so huge GG's for Andy. It's almost a sword, I guess. And does look like Obscure is at least typing some GG's.
Yeah, it looks like it. He looks like he is aware that Andy has in fact finished, and so this looks like it's going to be a forfeit on Obscure side. Certainly very reasonable. That shovel, unfortunately, wasn't also going to lead to a sword, at least that we know of, that Obscure's going to go after. But we are joined here by today's victor, Andy. GG's.
Hey, GG's.
GG's, gamer. Nice run.
Yeah, it felt pretty good. It was a little sloppy for the first like 15 minutes or so. Having played this game like once in the last 9 days, wasn't too unexpected for me.
Yeah, also early inverted jitters, right? Like,
yeah.
So much more punishing.
But yeah, this rat ended up working out pretty nicely. Mitts and Super Bunny was really nice. It was like basically a 50-50 between Super Bunny or like Catfish Pyramid and one check-in pod. I didn't want to do any of the other 3 things. So, but yeah, it was pretty nice. Getting those boots early felt really good. I knew like so much stuff was flipper locked. All the boots checks. I got a pod small key and ice, I think, and then like ice being the other good crystal was really nice. So it let me kind of like isolate a lot of stuff that I didn't really need to go to.
Yeah, so I guess maybe like a big question, and certainly a point of divergence was your decision to sequence break into Ice Palace without the flippers. Like, what I guess like made you make that decision?
So I think after Pod and Eastern, I didn't know all my crystals and pendants yet. It was like between Hera and Meyer, and I was missing like 5 things, maybe 6 things. I actually had no idea what Meyer's entry was because I forgot to look. So I was like, if I need Quake, I still need 6 things, I think. So at that point, sequence breaking ice to like maybe get 1 more or like however many more checks off of Death Mountain, not have to double dip it. Would have felt really nice. Like if Fire Rod was an Ice Palace and I could do the front of Turtle Rock or like Hera Big Key, something like that.
That makes sense.
We are also here joined by Obscure. GG's on your run.
Yeah, GG's, Andy. Well played.
GG's, dude.
So, sorry about the boots.
Yeah. Out of all the items for Andy to get and for me to skip, it had to be the boots. It's fine though. It's he made a good play. Like it was like I was thinking about it. Like I was like, we just got the Ice Palace Big Key. I was like, I could dip into pod, but I decided to follow the logic instead and maybe get to go mode ice. It just so happened boots were in there. Another day it wouldn't be there. So Andy made the right play there to jump into ice. So yeah.
Yeah, for the most part, you really had very similar routes. Just that Andy was able to get to the mids a little earlier, which allowed him to kind of skip Pyramid Catfish early on, for example.
Yeah,
and was able to weave that in together with the light world checks, which saved him time. And then, yeah, that plus the early sword plus the earlier boots
Yeah, and I
Goods
think,
in general.
yeah, yeah, and I think like Andy's route in Pod Eastern, like he went to Saha first and got an extra pod key, and then that ended up, I guess, like only needing him to do mimics one time, but I think you ended up doing it twice because you didn't have that key.
Yeah, I was expecting the obligatory pod key and pod, so I went to the back first. Otherwise, I would have just gone to Helmer, and I was just like, wait, there's no small key and pod. Like, what is this? I demand a reroll. No. Yeah, it's again like I did have the Maya, so I just didn't have the green pendant knowledge, and I was just kind of in pod. I was like, well, if this is green pendant, I'm guaranteed an item in here because pendant pod. So I didn't bother checking what the green pendant was before going into pod. So yeah, I didn't pick up the small key, but again, it's a little bit of a time loss. I just felt like I was leaking time, like here and there, like when I jumped in the interview, Andy was talking about the mitts, and I think I was at the same point as well. It was kind of 50-50 catfish or super bunny. I decided to go for catfish pyramid just because it's a bit annoying to go all the way to super bunny and then find nothing. So I thought, you know what, we've got the flute. It's a quick check to go catfish, a quick check to go pyramid. Then I'll go super bunny.
Yeah, and you were actually a little bit more for early on as well. Also on the Death Mountain track, you're doing Spiral Cave early. And yeah, I guess that caused you to... Like, if there was anything early on that may have led you to do stuff like Eastern Power a bit more efficiently than Andy, then would have caught up. But it was mostly the other way around. That Andy did a couple of things that actually allowed him to do things more efficiently later on, while you did a couple of extra things that didn't really give anything. Like ice, like the ice rod on Zoran, for example, or even the pod small. Was it a pod small in Ice Rod Cave?
Yeah. Mm-hmm,
Yeah.
I guess Obscure, like, did you mean to skip the bridge chest in Meyer? Because for it was where there was a time save over Andy, because you know Andy got it. It was only 50 rupees, so kudos for you just to save that time.
Yeah, it was all planned. I was like, I need to make a skip somewhere. Why not the bridge chest? No, no, it wasn't planned at all. I think I was at the back, like where you typically do the spooky on the anti-fairies, and I saw my compass and it said 6 of 8. I was like, 6 of 8? I was like, oh no, what have I skipped? I was like, lobby? Like, I'm sure I checked lobby. I was like, definitely done. I was like, I haven't hookshot across. I was like, okay, that's gone. I'm doing Vitreous. I'm not coming back here for bridge chest. Like, if that's Flippers or GT Big, I think it was missing. I was like, that's a loss anyway. And I'm doing Vitreous. Like, I'm pretty desperate right now. I didn't really know where I was. Like, I felt behind, but I didn't feel like I played too badly. I was in a weird situation. I just decided it was going to be pedestal or green pendant.
Yeah, because like every decision you made was very reasonable. It's just that half the things really didn't pan out, and that's kind of how Rando goes, I suppose. But it was still a very interesting race to watch.
Yeah, it's as you said, like this one unfortunately didn't go my way and it went Andy's way, but yeah, another day, another seed, it might be vice versa. So yeah, you can never tell, and that's why it's fun.
Yeah, that's why we play Rando for sure. I had one question for Andy, actually. When you did right side of pod, were you considering actually going straight to Helma at that point, or did you do back first?
I forgot I had the big key or something, and so I went to the back and I was like doing the rupee room, and I was like, okay, so I'm gonna do Harmless Hellway and then bomb jump, and I was like, wait a second, like, I have big key bow and hammer. Why would I do Hellway when I can just beat the boss instead? I was like really close to wasting that small key, and I was really bad about myself. I was also really worried about Spiral Cave because I like brain farted and like went through Turtle Rock, and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna exit. I'm gonna exit from the left Turtle Rock entrance, and then I can do the front, and then I can mirror and do Spiral Cave after, and then I mirrored, and I was like, wait, like, that's not how this works. And so I ended up just like leaving out the front and leaving, because I was like, I don't want to walk through Paradox Cave again. Oh man.
That explains a little bit as well.
That was really funny. I like did it. I was like, wait, I'm stupid.
I just
But-
decided to say that you were doing it for safety reasons, so if you died to charms, that you didn't have to walk so long.
Yeah, I mean that was also a possibility. But with Bombos, I wasn't really afraid of the pokies or anything. But yeah, that was really funny. I like laughed and like it was a knee slapper for me while I'm like going through tubes in Turtle Rock. Uh, but yeah, this was a fun race. GG's Obscure. We'll see game 2 on the schedule now next Saturday. Same time.
Any modes that are going to be very likely or that you would like to see at this rate?
Oh, I have no idea. I don't know what modes. I'm trying to think. What was my like? What did I do in game 1 against game 2 against Wally? I guess. It wasn't a key sanity mode. Oh, that was map compass boss, I think. So that's back more on the table. Yeah, I don't know. No, just no normal modes. Keep keep the open and ambrosia away.
Makes sense. No, you just don't want to see Boots RNGT. I get it.
Exactly.
I mean, the booth can be in like useless pendant ice palace, I guess, in Ice Tea, and I don't know. Anything I guess you want to see Obscure?
Not in particular. I mean, this was the least one I wanted to see, so now at least we got this out of the way. So game 2 will be something I'm a little bit more comfortable with. So I guess bring it on. Should be fun. Looking forward to it, Andy.
Yeah, and yeah, thanks for commentating, Ari and Clear Mouse. I appreciate it.
Yeah, anytime. It was a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, this was great. Yeah, and right. So you said game 2 is next Saturday, same time, like noon Eastern.
Yep, noon Eastern, and then game 3 is on Sunday. If we need it.
Sounds good. This is definitely going to be like, I mean, this is definitely a really great series. So certainly very much looking forward to game 2. And of course, best of luck to you both. I know you're going to run basically semifinals, this week or next weekend, and then whatever combination of finals and bronze. Gonna get another couple of games out of you guys, so it'll be a really good time. Any other thoughts, I guess, before we kind of wrap things up?
Hopefully, I'm a little less rusty early game for for next weekend. I have some time to play this week, so that's good. But yeah, GG's again.
Yep, GG's.
Well, GG's, and don't worry, the rust didn't show. Anyway. Yeah, thank you so much for asking me to come clear us. Always a huge pleasure.
Oh, this was a boatload of fun, Ari. I'm always more than happy to be able to talk with you, like in the booth. So
Yeah, it's always amazing, and thanks so much, Sammy, for tracking, keeping us on the ball for whatever we may have missed as comms.
yeah, oh yeah, no, Sammy was so on top of things. Like, I mean, like I think she marked all of our pendants and crystals, and she marked all of the keys as well. I mean, it was just like, how many keys do we have for? Oh, I guess all I gotta do is look down. So thank you so much, Sammy. And again, she is one of the probably most frequent that we have for main tournament trackers, and certainly of course one of the most experienced. So thank you so much. Always really great to be able to have her around. And I also wanted to say thank you again, Andy, and and Obscure. This was actually a really good race. Again, sorry, Obscure, about the boots and the extra sword. Hopefully, it'll be more in your favor for next time, because I think everybody, maybe minus Andy, wants to see a game 3 out of you guys. So certainly, best of luck. And it should be a very good series. We actually do have one more here on SpeedGaming in about 40 minutes. It is going to be the other set of semifinal matches between GFE and Schultzer. That is game 2. So get a drink, you maybe get a refreshment or two, and come back and keep watching more Rando. And of course, as Andy and Obscure mentioned, game 2 between them is next Saturday at 12 p.m. Eastern time. So going to be lots of good things. Looking forward to that. Yeah, I think again, and of course, Eric, thank you again so much. Always, I'm definitely looking forward to the next time that we can do this again.
Same.
All right, until then, 40 minutes from now, don't basically change channels. Just chill out, go grab a drink or two, and then come back for more random. See you then.